because right after retail brokerage, I ended up working for a local developer called East Bank. They're based in Georgetown, and we ended up redeveloping a project in the West End, and that project is called Westlight, which is where the West End Library is and was, and then also the old police station and fire station. So there was two projects, and I was brought on as a real estate development project manager for the firehouse. There's affordable housing units up top, and then we created a buffer in between the firehouse and the affordable housing, and it's an athletic facility, which is called Squash on Fire. I was tasked with starting Squash on Fire, taking it from the founder's idea, East Bank's owner. So taking his idea, turning it into a business model, and then launching it and stabilizing operations over a 3-year period. So that was a lot of fun. I did that once we finally launched. I ran it for about a year, year and a half. Got it to about 25 employees. We did over 1 million in our first year of operation. And then I ended up leaving and helping a friend with his startup. So that's really how I got like thrown into entrepreneurship, was just kind of by accident. That startup was interesting because it was no longer like an athletic facility or real estate related. It was then an online app around gamifying golf. So you can go to a golf course, you could check into our app and participate in a progressively growing pot for a hole-in-one challenge. And it was 7 local courses that set up cameras. So you can check in, record, and then once we could visually confirm that you hit a hole-in-one, you could win the prize. So about 3 or 4 people won about $25,000. So I had 3 different startup experiences, all in different categories. And after building for like 3 different companies that really weren't mine, I was just the first person tasked with growing them. I was like, if I'm going to spend the amount of time and effort, I'm going to go after something that's really interesting to me. I decided to go after something I had been kind of like tinkering with at home, which was this wheatgrass drink. Well, wheatgrass is wheatgrass, and they harvest it about like 7 to 10 inches high, and you juice it. So you get like this really green juice. It smells grassy, tastes grassy, but what's great about it, it has every vitamin and mineral within it. And it's loaded with antioxidants, and you have all the phytonutrients. So it's really healthy for you. It's just hard to get. And if you're going to a juice shop, like a 1 ounce shot, it costs about $4. So it's not the most affordable thing to be doing. So what I was doing is juicing it at home because I had got into triathlons. So I was heavily competing. I did about, in my first year of starting triathlons, I ended up doing 7 of them. So I was concerned about nutrient intake because I switched to a vegetarian diet right in between my training for the half Ironman. And I started drinking this just to supplement everything. Really, I wanted the antioxidant benefits. So I got up to about 8 ounces every single day. So I was growing it, harvesting, and juicing it at home, which is a pain in the butt. So I was trying to find a different way to consume this ingredient, and there really wasn't a way to do that. Going to the juice bar wasn't reasonable. $32 a day, not in my budget. Um, so I saw a little bit of a white space. So I just started like mixing these drinks together. And I would say one of the moments that actually kind of I had an epiphany was when I got my mother-in-law to drink some wheatgrass. She took a shot and she goes, "Ugh." And then right after she goes, actually, it's sweet. It tastes really good. So I was like, okay, I have to get people past that initial reaction because the ingredient's so good for you, and there's an avoidance because of the way it smells and tastes. So I paired it with fruit juice, and I also had a really bad, and I still do, coffee habit. So I was trying to get into teas. So I was drinking yerba mate tea. I don't know if anyone has familiarity with that particular tea, but it's a really good tea. It comes from South America. And unlike coffee, where you get like this big jolt and sometimes a crash towards the end, yerba mate, you don't feel that big jolt, but you just feel steady energy for like 3, 4, 5 hours. And you can drink it at night and still go to sleep. So it's this great tea. So I started mixing all those together, and that's when I really started going all in on this. I would take these samples, and my business partner, who isn't here because of the flu, I would take these samples into his bar that he was running in DuPont Circle at the time, with the sole purpose of just meeting strangers who could sample the drinks and just give me unfiltered feedback. And it worked out really well. For the most part, it was very, very positive, and I received some good feedback that helped me tighten up the flavors a little bit. So that's how like I formulated the idea. When you launch your business, it's not it in most cases it's not immediately income producing in the sense that you can like draw a salary. So I always advise anyone looking at entrepreneurship, figure out if you can like if you have a full-time job, is this something you can just do as a side hustle initially until you have proof of concept? Or in like in my case where I was able to split my time, that worked out really well because it will take longer than you're anticipating to get to a point with a cash flow intensive product like a consumer packaged good. It just takes longer to get to a point where you can support yourself. With the wheatgrass is that there's particulates. So like if you pour this out, you will see wheatgrass particulates. So it doesn't lend itself to being in a bar where you're mixing it with alcohol. It's not going to be the most attractive drink.
Right.
We don't use colors or additives or anything like that. So it looks green, except for hibiscus. Our hibiscus looks pinkish. So the bar really is not a key target of ours. I always knew it was going to be canned, canned for many reasons. One, to hide kind of like the aesthetics of it, but then two, um, a can prevents light from hitting the ingredients, which degrades them. So we have a long shelf life, and that's mainly because it's protected from the light. So like those fresh shots you see in like Whole Foods or Safeway or Giant, um, those have a limited shelf life, but then the light itself is actually degrading it further. So we were just trying to avoid that. I understood the market I was going into. I spent a long time researching the beverage space, and in particular, this is called a functional beverage because of the energy in the wheatgrass. So I really dove deep into the functional space. When it came to launching, it was very different. I scrapped together enough money through a convertible note, and it was just enough money to produce the product and support like a few months of operation. And that's with like not taking any salary or anything. So it was bare bones, the minimum we could do. And then what we did is Russ and I threw it into the trunk of our car, and we were just driving around the DMV and just trying to figure out, okay, what stores might take this in. A lot of them were like independent stores or natural food cooperatives. And we would just walk in and have a conversation, share it with them. They liked it, and they'd be like, okay, we'll take it. And that's really how we got started. And we were driving all the way down to Richmond. Funny enough, we still have one account that we cannot get into our distributors. They just won't use them. So we still drive to Richmond for this one account. Um, but that's a long drive. But that's how we got going. And uh, what was nice about it is we were able to start proving out a demand for it and traction. And there was a story that we could use with more regional changes. It was $90,000 through a convertible note, which I would highly suggest. That it's technically like a debt instrument instead of an equity instrument. And what I mean by that is like with equity is like, okay, I'm going out and I'm raising, let's say $100,000 and I'm going to give you 25% of my company. They're getting equity. So it with the convertible note, that's not happening because there's no way to value your company this early in the process. And I would advise trying like against trying to put a value on your company very early because you're going to really give away a lot of equity and dilute your own interest. So the way to delay that, there's many ways, but the ways that we went was this convertible note, and then there's another one that's called a safe, which is the same thing except it doesn't have an interest rate tied to it. So what it means is, let's say we raise $100,000. Whoever holds this note They get a 20% discount, which I'll explain in a minute. It has an interest rate. So in this case, I think it was 5% at the time, because this was several years ago. It was 5% interest rate. And then there's a valuation cap that just says, okay, we're not trying to value your company, but we want to make sure that that coming in early, that there's an additional benefit if the company really takes off and the valuation goes really high. So they don't want to be diluted. So we set a valuation of, let's say, $1 million. So what happens when this converts is when there's an equity round, a priced equity round, these convertible notes convert into equity. So all that interest that they've earned becomes additional shares, and the 20% discount rate, the 20% discount, whatever that equity investor pays, let's say they pay $1 a share, the 20% discount reduces the price to the convertible note holder. So that's their benefit for coming in early. They get 20% reduction, ultimately 20% more shares. And then the valuation cap, like let's say all of a sudden our value is like $10 million. So it's a way to defer valuation and get you going. And then you can do what's called a rolling close. So like you don't have to raise all 100,000 at once. You can just say, look, I'm going to raise it over like a 5-month period. And then as the checks start coming in, you can start using it right away. So that's what we did. We raised 90,000. We raised 45 initially just to do production. And then we used the other 45 that came in over about a 2-3 month period for continued operations. So there's great resources, free resources. Um, I would always advise like get like a business attorney involved, but I think it's called Cooley Go, Cooley, which is a law firm. So Cooley Go, you can go in there and you can for free get organizational documents, whether like if you're doing an LLC, you can do partnership documents. If you're doing a corporation, it'd be your organizational and charter. But they have convertible note. They don't have safe, but they have convertible note and they have a Series A equity template that you can use. So I would highly advise just like go in there and just download the documents and just like understand like what you're getting into because you need to be able to speak to these as you're raising money. But that's free. That's completely free. And
Wow.
it's Coole Go. Um, I go into really great depth with Russell. We created a podcast as we were launching, and it's called Making Maka. Um, so you can go in there and you can actually follow our entire like launching process, or listen. No, can't really watch it, but listen to it. Um, so with the cans, what we did is super scrappy. I just took, so this is called a 12-ounce sleek can. It's just a tall, thin can. And what I did is I just went into a grocery store, just grabbed a bunch of them off the shelf, didn't matter what the brand was, and I created my own label with this sticker maker and just branded it Maka. So I had a prototype. Like you couldn't drink it, but I had a prototype so you could physically see it and hold it, which is actually really important for investors, unless it's a tech investor. That's totally different. Just to have something tangible. And then what I was doing is creating these small little like plastic bottles of samples. So I'm like, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it tastes like. Initially, I was just batching all this at home. Um, but then what you have to do, you can't batch at home and then sell. Like there's a lot of licensing things you have to do, and I just didn't have the capability because it's also carbonated. Um, so what I had to do was turn this into what's called a commercially viable formula. And so you find a formulator, and I sent them my samples. I was like, this is what I want in it. These are the quantities. And they take that, turn it into a formula, and over 3 different rounds, you kind of finalize what it is and what it tastes like. And that's how that worked.